everyone to another episode of Off the Deep End. Katie, welcome. It's great to see you again.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm looking forward to you introducing a bit about your story and the exciting things that you're into right now. You can start wherever you like.
Oh my goodness, wherever I like. That's
Yeah.
the challenge here, right? I guess I'll say by training, I'm an economist, and that surprises some folks, although I've been an economist since I was a very small child. It is just how I see the world, it is how I relate to things. And I spent the first 15 years of my career in the economics and personal finance space. And it's a space I really like to be in. I was a college professor. I did a lot of K-12 teacher professional development. I did investment consulting, workplace financial wellness, and research and programming at a national nonprofit as well. And that part of my career, was full of, I'd say, like advancement and cool projects and all the best things. And alongside of, my skilled career and my leadership career, I am one of those people who likes to go really hard. Like that is my speed, is full speed ahead, especially when I'm into something, if it's knowledge work, if it's a project I can bring to fruition, like I do not like to stop and I'm very mission driven. And so I've gone through some cycles of burnout and recovery, right? Like, I think it's especially those of us that are like internally driven to use our professional skills for positive impact.
Yes.
Like, we don't want to stop, and it feels good, right? Like, no one's pushing me. Like, it's just me doing the pushing. And so, all along the way in this career, I was amassing like wellness tools. So I love yoga and meditation. I did my certification back in 2012. I started mindfulness, I think, in '08. I've got 3 certificates in nutrition because one day I was cleaning up my diet. And so something about me, when I learn something, I like go all in on learning it.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's just like, oh, could I just take a test and then be certified? Oh, I can? Okay. Let's let's do
Yeah.
that. Um, And so during the pandemic, like a lot of folks, I was just reevaluating some priorities. Like things were good. I was kind of at the top of my game career-wise. Um, and I was like, oh, I think it's time to help this next generation of leaders with their leadership skills and with the personal well-being and vitality. They don't have to go through these cycles of burnout and recovery. I wish these are the tools I wish I had earlier on. And so I founded Burnout Proof Leaders, and it started as a coaching practice. I moved into online programming, and more recently we've been pivoting, not just focusing on those early leaders who I love, I really do, but the folks who are looking at the way the world is, and instead of fighting it, they're saying, I'm just going to build a better path forward. So maybe the entrepreneurs or the philanthropists, the artists, the athletes, the writers, just people who are maybe starting a movement or trying to be of influence using their professional skills. And so it's more of a marketing pivot, I would say. It's still holistic leadership development because these folks, I know these folks, right? They're like me. And so that kind of just brings me to where I am now, just having a lot of fun building and scaling burnout proof leaders.
Thank you. That's a great place to start. And I think you and I met and connected around this concept of or not concept, but reality of burnout. And I know that you've had experience with that, and you just so wonderfully explained how that can happen when you're a high achieving person. You have a lot of um, hopes and dreams and aspirations, and you just go all in. You're curious, you stay in this mode of constantly learning. And when we first connected, I remember wondering, like, why the younger generation? But you so perfectly explain your heart for them as well, which I love. And another thing that we've connected around is the healing modalities that you've picked up along the way. And as you know, my journey in that sense has been a little bit similar, but more recently, these are things that I've been exploring as well and implementing. And I know that you very recently started a group on Telegram, right? About around quantum healing, correct?
Yeah, so in business in the last, I don't know, year or so, everyone's like, you should have a podcast.
Mhm.
This is the marketing advice, right? Or just the advice for folks. Oh, you want to grow an audience? You should have a podcast. And I was like, I don't need a podcast. It was kind of like one day I woke up and I was like, oh, I know what my podcast is, right? Like it just, divine spark just came through and I was like, okay, it's not on the traditional channels. It's an intentional space. And I was like, where can I do an intentional space? And I was like, oh, okay, the apps, right? You can have a private broadcast channel. People can say, I'm going in here now with my intentional energy. This is content I'm going to consume. And it's not laden with all these ads that you have on social media or all this other competition for your attention. So I could create a space with intentional energy.
Yeah,
And so the title of it is House of Quantum Vision and Vitality. And
nice.
it's really the exploration of the energetic realms and practical realities of conscious leadership and personal well-being, right? Like you deserve to have both. And so in some ways, it's me bringing all my wisdom and expertise into short episodes. And in other ways, it's me right along folks in the trenches trying to create something big and different and new in this world of rapid change, in this world where there's so much going on in the macro and then your micro level and your body. And so it's a little bit of an experimental lab as well.
And so you've launched this group already?
I have launched. Yes, we've had two
Excellent.
episodes. I guess it's been, I guess, a week and a half old right now at this point. And so I would love to have your listeners join if we could, offer them my subscription link. It is free to join. It's just not on the regular RSS feed channels. It's an intentional place that folks have to decide to go into.
Excellent. Yeah, great respect for that. You've had an interesting perspective. You have been able to see this development really of conscious leadership, conscious marketing, which is something I feel is on the rise by a lot right now. And I wonder if you could take us through, first of all, for those who might, that term might be new to them, how would you define where we are in terms of this conscious marketing? What is that?
Mm,
And how do you feel that, say, the events of the last 5 years during the global shutdown and everything, how do you feel that that has helped shape where we are?
these are fun questions. These are deep questions. So when I think about consciousness, and especially in a business context, let's say marketing, there's a lot of business owners out there, let's say, that want, of course, success for their business. I'm an economist. Yay, let's have that, right? Like I'm not anti-capitalism. But we maybe look at the way things as they're being done and we say, that's not really me. That's a little icky. That just feels like a little bit forced. Like I'm trying to say, oh, if you don't get this now, you will be broken. Oh, if you don't get this now, you're missing out. And that maybe hasn't resonated with all of us. But a lot of business owners said, well, I guess that's how I have to do marketing. And so conscious marketing to me is more of an awareness of the fact that our energy that we put into things does matter. And so I could offer a promotion on something. And let's say it's, $100 off a program. And I could offer it from a place where I'm like, oh my God, I need this money so much. I really need someone to buy this from me. And I'm grasping at it, right? And that actually gets infused in that promotion that I'm doing versus where I'm like, you know what? I really want the right people that I can help with this service who can be in it. And I want them to have the abundant finances, where they feel great about this. Yes, it meets them at the right time, and I sit with that, and that's in there instead, right? Like that, those are very different energetics, even though I'm doing the same thing. Here's your $100 off promotion. My marketing, my graphics are all the same, but the energy. And so conscious marketing is both what am I putting into it with my intention? What's my energy as I'm creating it? And then realizing that everything we put out into the world, whether it's our thoughts, whether it's our business actions, whether it's invitations for folks to join us, has ripple effects. And so if we're selling to the wrong people who we can't help, that has a karmic impact. And so I think conscious marketing is just recognizing our energy matters in how we do things, and our actions have impact on other people. And so I think the pandemic, in many ways, was a wake-up call for a lot of folks. They were jolted out of their everyday habits and routines. And if we're not in the regular practice of disrupting our own habits and routines, then sometimes it takes a big event, it pulls us out, and then we question everything. And so I think that collectively, so many folks were saying, oh my God, I hate my job, but I need money, right? That's the reality. But like how can I use my professional skills, in a way that's aligned with my values, in a way that's aligned, not everything needs to be save the world, right? Like you could just go to work and be a great colleague and like you're producing a product that people need, right? Like I need a toothbrush, right? Like I need someone to market me the toothbrush. I need all that. There's nothing, some companies that are kind of, I don't know, I think actively doing evil and harm in the world. And then there's a whole bunch where, you could work, but like you're saying maybe, oh, my boss just is really an awful person to work with. And like this isn't working for me. And so I think that collectively the pandemic just called into question a lot of the ways people spend their time and spend their money and spend their attention. And so I think that's given rise to this resurgence of folks maybe wanting to be connected with their authenticity, their values, and then infuse that into, the small business or the entrepreneurial world. Great question. I love this question.
This intention, this new awareness around being honest about what you're really feeling and connecting to your soul's purpose even. And I think because you've experienced burnout, this would resonate with you, is that a lot of people don't make changes until they're up against the metaphorical wall. This was the catalyst to get everyone on board with this idea of, I need to actually decide where I want to be, like what I want to be doing and why, and not have what I do be a reaction only. Because how many of us started jobs and careers because it paid well? How many of us got involved with whatever whatever the situation is because it seemed like everyone else was doing it or it was the right thing to do? And then suddenly the whole world is looking at their own personal life and going, but maybe that's not actually what I need or want. Maybe that's not actually aligned with who I am, what I think I'm supposed to be showing up as in this world. Because of your background as an economist, I'm guessing that you saw this through an even different lens than most of us would. You saw right away the impact financially that these decisions were having on people's personal lives and on their business because you're a businesswoman. Do you have, off the top of your head, do you have any examples of things you've personally witnessed, whether it was an individual or a business, whose moment of pivoting as they did completely changed the trajectory of everything for them?
Hmm.
Like something that really stands out to you, maybe someone you were working with.
The moment that somebody feels their own clarity the hardest decision in the world becomes easy for them. It's usually when we have all this resistance and all this static from our parents conditioning us, right? Go to college, get a good job. Society conditioning us, what's acceptable, what's not. Even maybe what we majored in college, how that discipline views the world. And so then, as you're saying, and we're all kind of waking up and questioning. And then there's this point of uncertainty, and I feel like resistance is a good word here, where you're like, I don't know the clear path forward. I don't know the outcomes, but I'm so crystal clear that I need to leave this job.
Yeah.
And have an unwavering faith in myself that the path will appear when I do, or that I'll land on my feet. And so I would say that is a privilege to witness in somebody.
Yeah.
And so it takes people, different lengths of time to get to that point. But maybe you've seen that too, where when somebody's, internally made that decision that's right for them, then they just go forth. And it's not that it's always easy. They have to do hard things, but because that inner clarity is so strong, they go forth and they do it. And so I think that happens with quitting jobs, starting businesses. Like you can tell when someone has that spark from the inside that's driving their behavior, as opposed to the fear driving it and the should driving it and the messaging driving it. And a lot of that gets really deep inside us that
Yeah.
we don't even know that that's what's driving us, because I spent a ton of time in the personal finance space, and it's very prescriptive. It's very judgmental on what you should and shouldn't be doing with your money, right? And that even that in and of itself is just like, whoa, whoa, like calm down, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And since you were working with and for the younger generation when when you started Burnout Proof Leaders,
Mhm.
um, were there any particularly compelling stories around someone in that younger age bracket deciding to take a course of action that, say, even even 10 years ago would have been like, how can that ever work?
That I would be wondering how could that ever work? Or
That
that they
people
were
on the
wondering.
outside, looking
Oh,
at their lives, the younger generation, looking at their lives and seeing the decisions they're making would just be like, how is that ever going to work? And yet you saw it work.
yeah. And I would say so because of how I've run my career, I actually attract a lot of folks who on the younger side who really just needed to give themselves permission.
Yes.
So I was a professor and I decided not to be a professor. That is a very big deal to a lot of professors. And it was kind of a big deal to me to be like, oh, am I going to walk away from this kind of career stability forever? Right. And I was like, but this isn't for me anymore. Right. And I was very good at it. It was all going well, but I was like, oh. And so, having experienced that and then having experienced walking away from really high paying jobs when they're just not right for me anymore, even without a plan, just knowing when it's time for me and knowing, I'm resourced and knowing I have the faith in myself. So I would say kind of by virtue of my lived experience and my energy, I do attract folks who probably always had that in them where they were ready to make a change, but they needed a little bit of somebody to say, yes, you're doing the thing, right? If everybody else around them is freaking out. And that's what happens is when you make a change, often is it challenges everyone else's perception of you and brings up their fears about whether or not it's possible for them, but they're talking about you, right? It's kind of all
Yes.
these projections. And so that is something that
Yeah.
I'm very well equipped to deal with or to help folks navigate, both having lived it and, with the expertise. But I loved the younger generation so much. And I think it's because I started as a professor And so I would see them through their college years and see them in emerging leaders. And then, when I was in a 9 to 5 job and I would see them come in, and it was a different environment than I ever came into. And it was more demanding, for less pay, for more hours. And I was seeing them get burned out quicker and quicker, even burned out in college before they'd even gotten into the rest of the world, right? So it's, the one piece of advice that I don't really like to give advice, but the one thing I do like is, especially to folks just either before they start college or they're graduating college, I'm like, take a gap year. If you can swing it, you are going to work for the rest of your life in many ways. Like, take the time now. Oh, you don't have the money? Whatever, right? Like, put that on your credit card. Go do a thing because you've got decades and decades
Yeah.
where you're going to be kind of in the regular system, most likely.
You've seen both sides of that equation, and you're an economist. So
I do
that
like
works out
math. I
well.
really do.
Do you see the systems changing though? Because as far as I know, I mean, I've been out of the public education loop for decades myself now, but from what I see even now, there's still so much an emphasis, not just on the academics, but there's so much pressure around making the decisions, even as young as what, middle school, um, making the decisions to set up the rest of your life as quickly as possible. Get into the career, get into the security of a job, of a getting the degree and all those things. Do you see that actually changing now or in the near future?
So I think we are at an inflection point. I'll speak to the US because I'm just most familiar currently with our systems. And I think it's the perfect time to burn down a lot of the systems and say these have not actually worked in quite some time for many people. Um, and of course the delightfully impossible challenge is how do you build brand new systems for 330 million people? Right? Like we're the third most populous country in the world. It's ridiculous. Like when people like think about that, right? Because you might look at Europe and say, "Oh, that's great," but I'm like, or even Canada, but I'm like, Canada's got 30 million people. It's a very different systems within systems. So I think we're at this interesting point, and this is a beautiful dovetail into, the pivot in my work for who I want to serve. I think this is perfect time for people to say, I'm building new systems,
Mm.
and people are invited over here, and I'm not going to fight against the existing systems, and I'm not going to try to tear them down. I'm just opting out of that to try to build this path that's better for everybody. And I think there's there's no one approach, right? You can't just, I mean, if we talk about healthcare system, which is something I studied quite a bit, right? A lot of it is artifacts that came out of World War II and the price freezes that we have. We weren't allowed to give people raises. And so employers were like, oh, I can't give you a raise, but I could give you some healthcare and it's not taxed by the IRS. Great. And then all of a sudden, decades later, it's all based upon the same system.
Mm.
So yes, I think we're at an inflection point, and I think this is the time if I had a call to action would be like choose. Are you going to try to build a new path forward? And I think there's still a space for some people who want to change the system from the inside. I'm just less optimistic that it can do much help on a broad scale. I think it can help with individual employers, perhaps in individual regions. And so if that's your fight, fantastic. But I would encourage people to think about where their professional skills and attention and energy are going to be going, and where are you called to be? Because yes, some people are called to fight the fight, change from the inside, but I think a lot of us are maybe like, what's over here? And I think the healers have been over here, and there's, artists have always been over here, counterculture folks have been over here, but I think a lot of quote mainstream people might be like, actually, I want to build this new path forward. And I want to feel good while doing it. I want to make money while doing it. I think both of those are perfect. And I think it's a real opportunity um, at this point.
Yeah, beautiful. About quantum. This is,
Yep.
some would say, a buzzword that's just going around everywhere right
It's
now.
hot right now.
It's hot, and there's a reason for that, everyone. But I haven't really gotten into the nuts and bolts of that, if you will, on this show yet. And since you have both the knowledge, the personal experience around the difference that intention can make in a situation, consciousness evolving can make in life in general, perhaps you'd like to speak on that. Maybe briefly define what it even is and some of the actual science and facts around that for anybody who's still thinking this is just woo woo or anything like that. How would you give us some grounding information around this?
Ooh, tall order. Let's see what I can do as a non-scientist. I actually hated science most of my life, which is a fun fact. And like I hated it so much that in college, I finagled my way to get my 3 science credits by taking an earth science spring break trip where we went camping in Death Valley. And the geologist pointed at rocks, and I was like, cool. And I got my science credits. Anyway, so it's much later in life. Um, say
But
that as a
maybe
prep.
just not to cut you off, but what you were just saying about the systems, maybe that's evidence too of just the current system, even of education, and the way that subjects are selected and the way that students are assessed needs to be reassessed,
Oh, for
right?
sure. I mean, oh,
So,
yes.
so yeah,
Yes.
continue with your.
K-12 is not about learning. K-12 is about anyway. Um, and I've always had I'm very gifted on the analytical side of things, evidence-based, right? Like I have a doctorate. I'm very, I would say like I'm a rational mind with a curious soul,
I love
is how
that.
I would describe sort of my adulthood. And so I was kind
Yeah,
of always open to, oh, let's do yoga because it's really good for stress management. Oh, these chakras are kind of cool. Oh, Reiki's kind of cool. Oh, like, picking
yeah.
up. I'm pragmatic, I guess I would say. So I like things that work. And I think that is the test for folks, right? Is like try things on, see how they work for you. And so I've read a lot of books on quantum physics. I'm definitely not the expert, but quantum just refers to these teeny, teeny, tiny little particles. They're like very, 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 very small. But we have identified them, they exist. But the neat thing about them is they exist as a wave, because a lot of things, in our universe are a wave. They're a wave until you look at them.
Yes.
And once you look at them, now they're a particle. And sunlight has photons have behaved like this for forever, right?
Mhm.
We've known that even before the quantum particles. And so they've done all these different cool tests where, they're observing the particles or not, and they can prove that they behave differently.
Hmm.
And I think recently they've been able to show, well, actually a long time ago, they could show that once 2 quantum particles like work together, they're called entangled. And then wherever you send them anywhere in the universe, if you do something to one of them, this one over here also knows about it. That's just like baseline fact, I think, for decades now. And I believe it's just recently they've been able to prove that a particle can exist slash not exist because it's all probabilistic in like 37 dimensions at once.
Yeah.
So these are just like the baseline things that like particle physicists understand about the world.
Mhm.
And that's kind of maybe over here. And then over here we have all these ancient ways of knowing about how time works. And then, oh, the physicists are learning about time too, right? Now they've actually proved that particles can show that time flows backwards, right? They can do that in an
Sure
experiment. But the
that.
ancients are like, yeah,
Mhm.
time's not linear. Time like works very differently. And like we even know this in our brain because like your brain will go very far in the future and then very far in the past and then right to the present, all in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's it's marrying these two things. So I'd say when people are talking about quantum in like in an energy way, not strictly science, but maybe a consciousness way, it's realizing there's particles everywhere. We are made of energy. We vibrate. We're mostly actually space inside of us, which is like weird to believe. But because we're all energy and because energy behaves differently when you observe it, right? And a thought is a thing and an emotion is a thing, then why do we think that we don't have any impact with our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions? Right? It's actually, I mean, I even think like Einstein and those folks back then, like they were much more open and aware to ancient ways of knowing and consciousness. They just wanted to, prove it with some physics. But they actually believed all the things. And so I think what this awakening is just okay, so given I do affect everything around me with my energy, can I learn some tools and techniques to do that more consciously, to do it more intentionally? And so I think that's the rise of, a lot of folks and modalities that'll say, okay, well, let's do some visualization. Okay, and here's some techniques to get yourself, grounded in your energy before you attempt this. And so we're just having this explosion of folks both figuring out what works for them and figuring out what works kind of like for the general case of people. That was a wild answer. I don't know if we addressed
No,
any
I
of it
think
or
it
if
was
you want me to
perfect.
go.
I think it was informative enough and left enough mystery that because that's where I love to play is give someone enough information that they can
Mm,
decide this is something I want to pursue further or not.
yeah.
Leave that door of curiosity open and go from there. But no one learns anything without an open mind, right? So
Yes.
to me, that's where it begins. So yeah, thank you for that description, that explanation. I think it was just enough. You did
Oh,
great.
thank you. Well, yeah.
It's such a
You're
complex
testing me, but I
topic.
like it. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complex and deep topic that, even the scientists don't quite have all the answers to, but we have enough that, like you said, it proves we have more influence than we've been led to believe. And I think it was Heisenberg that was the one who studied and realized that when the more you observe these particles, the more they actually materialize. And so even in my coaching sessions, having someone visualize something is not nearly as powerful as having them visualize it in the quantum space, because then you
Mm.
can actually interact and influence your outcome. So yeah, I think that was perfect. So where do you see this going in the current systems and influencing the current systems bridge building track? Would that be fair? There's, like you said, there's the old system, there's the new systems coming up. And I see almost a team or a network or just a tribe of people whose role it seems to be helping people bridge the two. Would that be would that be a role that you feel you're in, or are you more the I'm just gonna go over here and build this new thing?
Yeah, I'm one of these people that how do I want to say this? Because I learn really quickly and learn really deeply and can synthesize information across realms. There's that. Then there's also I have this interesting energy where people like to project whatever their beliefs are and assume that I have the same ones in a variety of places. Like you can drop me into a variety of different kinds of scenes and people assume I belong there and fit in. Even if on the inside I have completely different beliefs. And so because of these two things, I really do like straddle like the fringe of lines. And because I can understand, let's say, all these different worlds. I speak all the languages, let's say. And so, yes, I think a bridge is a really nice metaphor where, like, I can go over here and talk to the economists. And then I can go over here and talk to the artists. And I can go over here and talk to the woo-woo folks. And it all just works because I understand all of it. I'm willing to play in all those. And so then it almost just shows everyone on each side, like, oh, well, she's like this academic analytical person, but she also has this belief.
Mm.
Oh, well, that's interesting. And maybe it just unlocks a little bit of a crack within them and their curiosity. It's again, it's almost like by modeling it, I give people their own permission. Not that
Yeah.
I can give it, but right, but they're like, "Oh, okay, that's a possibility for me that I hadn't seen." And so, yeah, I think a bridge is a really beautiful metaphor. And I think there are maybe a lot of us out there that are part of our role is to, vision this future and say that it's possible, but also be like, but I understand why you're hanging out over here in the system. I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. I'm not going to tell you not to be here if that's where you are. But like, also, yeah, can I hold your hand while we walk this direction?
Have you ever experienced moments of fear around, okay, there's this new thing that I've learned, that I've discovered, and I do believe, that it is true and it's accurate and it even has backing to it scientifically, but it's a little bit scary. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm leading someone in a direction they're not meant to go? Have you ever, I know that's super like personal and you don't even have to answer it, but
So,
when you're up against the programming like that, it
yeah,
can
so
happen,
for
right?
me, I'm never worried that like I'm wrong about it. Like when I know something, I know something. And I know there's always more to learn like that. I don't mean like, oh, I'm never wrong, but like I'm not questioning, oh, am I misunderstanding this? Do I not understand it? But it's more my challenge was when I started really waking up to my spiritual gifts, like beyond just yoga and chakras and managing energy and like understanding my influence on the world, but like I've got some actual like spiritual healer gifts too that I've woken up to. And it was like, oh, how much can I incorporate this into my professional persona?
Yeah.
Like I always had people in my personal life that I, could do it with, but it's like, how much do I bring this over? And so the fear there or the risk, my edge was really around, can I handle being rejected by people for this? Knowing with certainty there will be people that reject me for this. Like it's not an unfounded fear, right? It's okay, to what extent do I want to play a role because it's gotten me really far and it's wonderful? And to what extent can I grow a little bit in a direction, knowing that that will mean some endings?
So how have you navigated that to this point?
Yeah, the real interesting part about this is um I ended up doing a low contact with my parents over the past several years. It's been a long time coming. That takes a lot of internal energy, but again, you're lining up with your intention and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And through that process of understanding what my true boundary is for how I will accept to be treated by other people. Um, Once I kind of really worked through that and was like, no, this is my relationship now with my parents. Like this is my boundary. Then I just really didn't even care as much about um all the other let's say reputation risks. And I think for me, it was because my work was on that very important relationship boundary. And so if I hadn't done it there, I probably would have had to do it with like a visibility, like a lot of visibility work around this. And it's still a little of an edge because I'm a human, right? And it's not fun to be rejected. But it's also more like focusing on I'm a no for some people. Always have been, always will be. This is even like less uncertainty then. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a no because of this. Cool. But then who am I a yes to that otherwise wouldn't have even known about me? And so it's just that like that frame, right? Do I want to focus on people that weren't gonna like me for who I was anyway, right? But maybe it wouldn't have come up versus like, oh, what is this world of opportunities open up for me and for others if I'm willing
Yeah.
to try it.
Yeah, and it goes back, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about being a straddler to some degree, not in the sense that you're waffling around about what you believe, but in the sense that you're open and approachable, and yet you have the conviction enough to decide, give yourself permission to do whatever it is that's in your heart and your soul's mission to do. And I think that's everything you've had to do to this point as an economist, as a professor, as someone who worked with the younger generation. All of this gives you just a great edge and an advantage to be able to speak both worlds, speak to both worlds, and still be, or because of that, be the bridge builder that that it seems the world really needs right now. Because there's those extremes, right? In every single aspect of our culture, there are extremes. You won't have a hard time finding extremes. You'll have a harder time finding people like you and I that are like, well, wait a minute. Is there a third way here? Is there a way to intelligently and honestly be in both worlds without compromising our own integrity? Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, well put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ability, I think, to appreciate all the different perspectives and even maybe really deeply understand them, but then be able to translate
Yeah.
across them.
Yeah, and being able to recognize too that some people, their knee-jerk reaction when they're introduced to something new is going to be fear,
Oh, for sure. For
because
sure.
it makes them bump up against what they've always believed and thought to be true. It's sometimes fear is going to be the first reaction to
Oh,
something
for
new.
sure. For sure. And I think sometimes our role in a situation as a coach or as a healer, even just as a human, like who's very grounded in our own energy, good energy hygiene, sovereign energy, our mere presence can trigger reactions in people. And I don't think that's a wrong thing. I actually, it's good to be aware of. But if my existence and me being this way brings something up in someone, then that was my role. That's why I was near them. And that's very different than like me interacting with them and telling them what to do or whatever. Like that's a different situation, right? Like someone just feeling my energy could either have a very positive response or a very negative response depending on where they are. And at that point, it's your feeling of it. It's the subconscious, right? It's just we're giant antennae. Like we pick up energy all the time around us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, exactly what you're saying is like sometimes just being who you are is enough to make someone afraid, right?
Right. Yeah, and again, because of your work as a certified yoga instructor and mindfulness in that side of the wellness spectrum, you know, we know the nervous system is constantly assessing and reassessing where it's safe and where it's not safe. And you have a bazillion different synapses going on in your nervous system at every moment, and you don't even realize what you are or aren't responding. It's all subconscious. And I think that's another reason why incorporating at least some of these mindfulness practices, something where you're more in tune with what you're feeling, what you're noticing, the saying, notice what you're noticing. It sounds a little bit strange to some people when I say it, but I think it's it's so important because we're in a culture, in a society, and have been, where a lot of people are numbing how they feel, distracting themselves from how they feel, but really learning how to dig in and notice what you're feeling. So I think it's going to be more crucial now than it ever has been.
I would agree. I think with the nervous system especially, like just another thing I think that everyone needs to understand is sort of like the care of their physical vessel, and nervous system regulation is one aspect. And it's so many folks function with a hyper turned on nervous system the whole time because they never learn to downshift and to clear all of the chemicals and hormones that get released when we go into sympathetic nervous system activation. And so, all day long, every day, you're just sitting in this cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol and like all the different chemicals, so that when you do calm down, it feels wrong.
Mhm.
You're actually, in a weird way, addicted to the stress version of yourself. So you don't know what it truly feels like to calm down because every time you try, well, now like what are you missing? And so it's actually like not an immediate process, to your point, like this is something like to learn and to practice and to really start to get good at. Because when you say, we're numbing out, that's because we're in our freeze response. And we like to say fight or flight for short, but it's fight, flight, fawn, and freeze in
Yes.
the modern, right? And so like you're just overwhelmed. Like you can't function because you are so hopped up on the stress chemicals, which is normal. Your body should do this, but um, this is why movement is so important because that's what flushes out all of these major hormones. Because when you go to fight or flight, the original, your body's poised to fight or to run.
Yeah.
And so it knows to clear the chemicals and to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system when you've actually moved your core muscle groups. So like if you're stressed out and you can do like 2 minutes of movement, like swinging your arms and hopping up and down, like that clears the stress response and resets it. So there's very simple things people can do too, in
Yeah.
addition to, I know because some folks are like, oh, mindfulness, that sounds like so much work, right? But like the physicality, the embodiment of it is actually a shortcut in if you want. And then there's so many other benefits to movement too, right? Like we should all be moving to our, ability and, desire and things we find fun.
Yeah, exactly. And for some, and I'm one of them, high intensity movements are not good for me. What's good for me is the slow and the gentle
Hmm.
movement. I've been doing some of the somatic exercises, even just from in bed. And
Sure.
I just a quick story. So I see a chiropractor fairly regularly, and my chiropractor is great. He uses a particular technique. It's just skin to skin. There's no machines involved. But my body for so long has been so stressed for different reasons, um, that when I go and he just touches me, I am already in pain. He hasn't even done anything yet. He's just palpating me to see where I need to be most adjusted. I had the best adjustment last week I've had like ever in the time I've been getting care. And the only thing I've done two different things differently. One is before sleep, I do these somatic movements, and the other is I've just incorporated um, the beef marrow supplement that I've been taking and beef liver. And that's you got the minerals and the nutrients in there at high concentration that I know I'm not getting during the day in my diet. And so, I used to make my own bone broth, and I definitely know that was beneficial. So this is the next best thing to that. Those are the two things literally that I've done differently. And for the first time, I think ever since he's been taking care of me for 20 years, I didn't have any of that pain. He even said the swelling I had a few weeks ago from my fall had gone down. But this has been a really fun and informative conversation. I think, what could I ask you that I haven't asked you yet?
Oh, I mean, we've been everywhere. I mean, I guess a question I always like to ask people is, what do you do for fun?
Yeah, what do
So
you
you could
do?
ask me what
You're in
I do.
Colorado, right?
I do live in
Yeah.
Colorado. Yeah. Yeah. I'm halfway between Denver and Boulder in a town called Broomfield, if any of your listeners know the area. So I'm an artist, is a fun thing I like to do. I do a lot of painting in acrylics, but also mixed media. And one thing I did during the pandemic was I decided I wanted to have an art show because it was always on my bucket list.
Mhm.
And I always thought, it would be like in a gallery and a whole thing. And then one day it occurred to me, I was like, I could just rent a space and invite all my friends. And I had an art
Yeah.
show and it was like the best day. It was the best day.
Oh,
So
great.
that's one thing. I was a dancer my whole life, so I dance probably 4 or 5 nights a week, dance cardio for both fitness and for joy. Um, I am a plant-based cook. I'm pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. I like watching stand-up comedy. And in terms of outdoorsiness in Colorado, my sweet spot is a 4 mile hike. I'm not
Nice.
like crazy outdoorsy. I'm like
Yeah.
regular outdoorsy.
And who would you say some of your biggest influences have been over the years?
Ooh, this is such a fun question because like every time in school that you had to write like who's your role model? Who are you inspired by? No one. No one and everyone. So I just like to learn from all sources. And I think there's so much out there, whether like it's just like a nobody person blog. I don't mean they're a nobody person, but like they're not famous, but like I might just be totally into their blog and only like 10 people read it. Or I might be very into, like Getting Things Done by David Allen, in terms of home organization. So everyone and no one, I guess I would say,
I
which is,
I completely get that. I
yeah.
resonate with that for sure. That's how I feel a lot of the times. It used to feel kind of some shame around that because I'm like, does that mean I don't care to learn from it? But no, it's not that at all. It's that I glean from so many different sources, and it depends on the subject as well. So, yeah, I mean, I totally get that. We've talked a few times, and today I'm finding out how much we actually have in
I didn't
common.
actually
So
even know where we were all going to go today, but here we are.
that's why it's called Off the Deep End. I don't either. I mean, there's hopefully you felt there was a flow and there was a format, because I definitely have that in mind as we talk. But beyond that, I like to just be unscripted. So, any questions for me?
Hmm. What are you interested in right now? Like today, like this week? What are you like into?
Into, yeah, I'm relearning the affiliate marketing space.
Hmm.
That, believe it or not, can be a little fun in some ways. So I've been looking at it as, I coach mostly female business owners, and a lot of them are in that space where they're like, I want to scale the business, but not increase my workload, but I
Mhm.
still need the money. And so affiliate marketing, in my view, is still the best way to make a passive income
Hmm.
online. So I've started putting that. I built a new page inside my website, and I'm going to make it searchable by category. And so it won't just be about me promoting products or services. It's about potentially someone seeing that and saying, maybe I could do this too. Yeah, so thank you again. It's just been a delight talking to you.